Today, I am joined with Cory from RunGuides. Cory, how's it going?
It's going pretty well, and I'm excited because I haven't done a live podcast before, and I didn't realize we were just talking. You were telling me the intro was going to go. I didn't realize I get to watch it too on my screen.
Not only do you get to watch it, but you can yell as loud as you want. Nobody's going to know.
I did see that I was muted. That's yeah. So that was fun. Very cool. Well, I'm excited to be here.
Thanks for joining. How's pandemic life in Vancouver?
Yeah, I mean, I think in Vancouver, we're lucky in that we've got a mild climate and a lot of stuff to do outdoors. So, it is what it is, but at the same time, you can get out and you can do stuff. So, I mean, yeah, it's not bad.
Nice.
It's also baby goose season right now, which is pretty good. I live downtown, and got the Canada geese ripping around. I can look outside my balcony right now and see them there, and they've got all their cute little babies walking around. It's good. It takes the edge off.
Okay, so boredom has reached new levels, I suppose. Did you get to do any skiing this year?
I actually didn't get up into the mountains that much this year. It was a little bit of a crazy season as far as snow conditions, especially in the backcountry. Backcountry skiing is something that I've wanted to get into for a while, but it was just a little dicey, and so I personally didn't get up. But I had a lot of friends that got into the backcountry this year and had some fun.
I'm gonna go back a step and talk a bit about your upbringing, your childhood.
Yeah.
I know you live in BC now, and you studied there, but it wasn't always the case. Can you give us a little bit about juicy details about your childhood past?
Yeah, this is for sure. There aren't too many juicy details, but I mean, basically, my dad was in the military. He was a dentist, right? And we bounced around. I guess a little bit. I was born in Alberta in Cold Lake, moved to Calgary, moved to North Bay, Ontario when I was really young. I was over in Germany for a few years. That for me was elementary school, grade 3 to grade 6. And then finally over to Comox on Vancouver Island in 1994. And I was there until about 1999. I moved there when the Vancouver Canucks went to the Stanley Cup, which was nice. So, you move into a place and you get to root for the home team, and they're doing pretty well. And,
Pavel Bure days. Those were great.
Back in the day. So that was, over in Comox and then down to Victoria, where I went to university in Victoria. I was there for about five or 6 years before moving over to Vancouver. And I want to say 2005, and now I don't even know. It might be 2006.
What'd you study in university?
Yeah, I took a BCom there, Bachelor of Commerce degree.
Okay. And how was the experience? What did you think it set yourself up to be the entrepreneur that you are today, or that actually came later in life?
It's an interesting question. I think so. That would have been about 1999 to 2005 when I was doing my BCom, and I don't think I knew really what I wanted to do with it. I just thought in my head, oh, business, you'll be a business person, whatever they do, and maybe I'll work for a merchant bank and make a lot of money. And that was kind of where my head was at. But I did find it interesting. University of Victoria is a great campus. I met a lot of really good people there, and I just kind of went through it, not really sure where I was going to end up and what I was going to do with that particular degree, to be totally honest. I do remember, and this is quite funny given that I'm in internet marketing now, there was a guy that came in that did a talk to one of our classes, and he did search engine optimization, consulting for companies, and I think he was doing some early Google AdWords stuff as well, like back when it was first starting. And I remember he gave a talk to our class and was saying, this is, if you want to get into this sort of field, come talk to me, get some experience, and this is going to be a real growth industry. And at the time, I didn't really think anything of it. And, now here I am running a website.
I have a couple of questions still about those university days.
Yeah.
The first is, I think you met your co-founder during that time. How did you guys meet?
Yeah, I did. I met my longtime friend now and co-founder of RunGuides, Brendan Eamer, in my first year of university. We were in residence. We shared a wall with each other. So I had this small little one bedroom that is, half the size of my apartment kitchen here in Vancouver. And you'd be at your desk and turn around and bump your knees on the bed. Brendan was in a 2-bedroom next door, and he liked to play like what I thought was pretty shitty, but now I think is like pretty sweet early 90s rap, really loud. And I used to like to play really cheesy Eurodance and country music really loud. And that's how we met. So it was a conversation of, oh, hey, maybe could you turn the Eurodance down? And I'd be like, yeah, could you stop playing Lil Troy? I want to be a baller. Maybe change it up. And so that's how we met, and that's how we became friends. I think eventually, if I recall, he ended up moving in with another friend of mine. They shared an apartment, maybe in second or third year university. And so we reconnected that way and sort of been friends ever since.
That's cool. And did you do like I know you're a pretty outdoors guy, but what was did you participate in a lot of sports back then while you were at university?
Not a ton, to be honest. I will. You know what? I did, but as a casual athlete, I wouldn't even call myself an athlete, right? Like we played intramurals. I like to go to the gym, that kind of thing. And that was kind of it, just sort of for fun, right? Nothing too crazy. A little bit of soccer, a little bit of inline hockey, a little bit. I used to have rollerblades. I used to love rollerblading around the city. I own that. I like it.
And did you do any running?
The funny thing is too, I didn't really even start running until probably about 2003, 2004. And I started doing that mainly because I really enjoy electronic music and I really enjoy the movement that goes along with that. And so I would throw on my, at the time, this was like a 64 megabyte MP3 player with electronic music songs that I had downloaded off of like Napster or LimeWire. Music industry, please don't come after me. And I would make these mixes, and then I would just want to move. So I'd be like, okay, let's go. I'm going to go for a walk, and that turned into I'm going to go for a jog. And I do it at the kind of at dusk or nighttime in Victoria. It's peaceful, and there's no one around, and it's nice. It's the same. It sounds cheesy, but it's the same kind of meditative state that people often get in if they're, that flow that they're getting in when they do things that they really love. And that's what I was finding when I started getting into running. I had no idea what I was doing as far as training properly. I'll use air quotes. I would just kind of get out and go. And that's how I got into it. That must have been about 2003 ish. And it just kind of went from there.
That's cool. And leading like after university, I think you jumped around a couple of different jobs. The one I want to talk about is your time at Managing Media.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, that would have been my first real foray into online marketing, websites, how do you make money online, all that sort of stuff. I was with them from about 2007 to about 2012. MyZone, their primary property at the time was a website called clubzone.com. And Clubzone was a directory of nightclubs across North America. I initially came in to help manage their photography team. So we'd send photographers out to the clubs, take a bunch of photos, put the photos on Clubzone. People would come back and look at the photos, or they would email us and say, hey, I wasn't actually supposed to be out last night. Can you take this photo down?
The takedown notice is nice.
Yeah. And we go, of course, no worries. We'll take that down. And I really didn't have much of a background in it coming in. I thought I knew a little bit about websites and how it all went, but that was the true learning curve for me on basics around things like search engine optimization, how to run a business, what not to do. I made a ton of mistakes as a manager in a small company, all that sort of stuff. So great learning experience for me, for sure.
Can you share a mistake or two?
Yeah, I think some of the definitely. I think one of the big mistakes that I made was, again, is just someone who came in and it was like, okay, now you're going to manage people, really not setting people up for success by providing them like a really good runway of like, okay, here's your responsibilities now. Here is clearly how you can define success in your role, and here's where you can go with your role, and where do you want to grow, how can we help you achieve your goals. So things like that. I really didn't have a lot of experience doing that, and so you just kind of are trying to figure it out. And I think that was probably frustrating for people who were working with me, right? Because you're just sort of like, do this thing. Okay, now the priority is this. Oh, now the priority is that. Yeah, that would be interesting. We should have got people I used to work with, and they could just do an exit interview with me on.
I could just send them a link right now. And invite them and have a little debrief for the last part of the show. But don't get me started on some great ideas here. I'm already thinking second episode. I do want to talk about RunGuides, so let's just jump right in. First of all, like for people who don't know about RunGuides, in your own words, can you describe what you guys do?
Yeah, absolutely. RunGuides helps people find running races near them. That's basically it. Nice and easy.
And how many races? How many races? Where?
We help people find races across North America. It's a calendar of upcoming runs. There are probably about 6,400 runs on the site right now.
Okay. Yeah. And where did the idea generate from? Like where did that come from?
The concept for RunGuides was born on a run in Vancouver, actually. You can picture it was myself and a guy, my friend Ben, and we were running over the Cambie Street Bridge in Vancouver, and it's nighttime. And this is one of my favorite bridges to run in over. You have a great view of the city as you come back into it. And he said, hey, I think he'd just done the Sun Run or something. And he said, what's the next race coming up? And, I said, well, you should just Google that. And he said, I did. And the calendars were they weren't that great. I couldn't really find what I was looking for. And I thought, At the time, I had already left MyZone, and I was doing a bit of consulting, just some side projects. And I went home and I did a bit of research, and I went, wow, running directories and running calendars exist. But I think there's an opportunity here to build something a bit better than what's already out there. I think there's an opportunity to build something that ranks really well for regional keywords and runs. So if you're looking for Vancouver runs or Portland races or something, I think we can build something that ranks number one for that. Or I think at the time I think I can build something. And so I tried to go do it myself for a couple of weeks. I did a bit of research, and I very quickly realized that I needed a software engineer to help me build this actual custom site. And so I called up Brendan and I said, here's an idea. Do you want to try it out? Would you like to be my business partner? Will you accept this digital rose? And he said, Yes. And then that's how we got going.
That's great. And once he took the digital rose, what was the first edition like? What was the first page? How did you build it? And do you remember?
Yeah, I mean, I would oh man, it would be great to go in the Wayback Machine and see. I think I have some photos of RunGuides version 1. It's pretty cool. So at the time, my at the time I was dating a graphic designer, and she was kind enough to give us a little bit of help on the initial design. So we came up with basic design, and then we just said, all right, let's throw up some content for a few cities, and yeah, that's how it got going. I think it had like stores. We thought running stores were going to be a big thing, like 3 big buttons across the top of the site, and then and then kind of like a preview of the calendar, and you had to click through to find more information. It wasn't mobile friendly or anything. We just thought, let's just get something up there and see if we get some traffic back to this thing, and then we'll go from there.
And what was the like the event scene, the race scene at the time? Like I've read a couple of books about it, but I'd like to hear your perspective on it.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. So when we launched, this would have been 2013. This was right going into the peak of color runs were a new thing. That kind of like 5K fun run was a new thing. Obstacle course runs were becoming a new thing. I mean, everything was kind of booming. Trail racing was still, it was getting going, but it was still a little bit more fringy than it was now. And I guess they were experiencing that. I think they call it like the second running boom. Like there was a big running boom back in, I'm going to biff this. I think it was the 70s or the 80s. And then there was but there was another big resurgence recently, right? Like in the kind of mid 2010s. And we were right in the middle of that. And it was pretty interesting. The whole demographic of running was shifting. It was going, from, again, I believe it was about 60, 40, 70, 30 men to women. Now, all of a sudden, you were getting a ton more women in the races. You were seeing how social media was starting to really drive participation. And yeah, it was really interesting, because when I started running, as a casual runner, I would kind of think, oh yeah, you do the big 10K in town, right? Maybe Victoria was the Times Colonist 10K. In Vancouver, it was the Sun Run. And I didn't really know about anything else. And all of a sudden, all of these other little niche events were kind of popping up. So yeah, things were popping off.
Nice. Now we're gonna go to maybe something a little bit less fun too. But how did you guys feel the pandemic when it hit on your website?
Oh yeah, that was brutal for the whole industry. And I mean, yeah, for us personally, we basically watched in 3 days. We watched our traffic drop like 80% or something like that. And just, I mean, I know the same with your industry as well, and with basically all races stopped. And at first I think everyone was thinking, okay, maybe things will just be postponed by 4 weeks. And then very quickly, we realized it wasn't going to be a kind of short-term thing. So quite challenging, and definitely tough to deal with, for sure, because you have something that you've put a lot of work into, and things are leading up to that point going really great. And then now you have, of course, something that's outside of your control that's affecting it. So yeah, it definitely affected us and the running industry significantly. More so too for the race directors. I think it's tougher. I mean, we still have a web property that was generating some amount of traffic. If you're throwing a race, it's like, that's it. And I know the race directors that I know and talk to are just, it was so tough. They were scrambling trying to figure things out.
And I think they're also stuck in between that. Correct me if I'm wrong. Some of them had already accepted funding for the races, but now they couldn't accept the races or couldn't hold the races anymore. So they were like stuck in between trying to keep the main sponsors, but also keep like the idea of the event alive. So the event
Yeah.
cancel is one thing, but then it's the whole logistics behind it, and then all your
Yes.
contracts and the food provider and the DJ, and like, can you cancel all that?
Everything.
Like everything is like, it's like a wedding but amplified, right? Because some of them have
Absolutely.
like 10,000 attendees or whatnot.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I did hear about a couple of success stories. Granted, they were like very remote. So one of them
Mhm.
was in Utah, and it was at night, and then they had like packs of like 10 or 20 people leave every 10 minutes. And
Mm-mm.
so it was like the first non-virtual race, and so people were like, thank God I've actually like experienced something.
Yeah, yeah.
But those were still very rare. I know you worked on some side projects. One of them I want to talk about right now, the Virtual Baton App. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, Virtual Baton App is something that came out of the pandemic, which is kind of interesting. And Virtual Baton App allows people to participate in virtual team challenges. So you form a team or register an event, you form a team, then you go onto the app to manage your team. You can chat with your team members. You can see where the other teams are, and then you can watch your team move along a map with Google Street View, which is pretty cool. And I mean, I know you you and your friends did the volley event. So yeah, we've been throwing events with this app, and it's been really fun. It
Yeah.
was born out of us kind of sitting around going, all right, runs aren't going to happen for a while.
What do we do?
What are we going to do? And we saw that, virtual racing is definitely a thing now, and we thought, well, what can we do that is a little bit different than the classic virtual race, which is, go out and run X amount of distance. Let's say it's a virtual 10K. Just go out and run 10K, and then you get your finisher stuff, right?
Yeah,
Which is
your
pretty
badge.
fun. And then we kind of looked at what was successful. We saw, the Tennessee 1000K was the biggest example of success. I'm not sure. Are you familiar with that event?
I am familiar with
Yeah.
that event. Yeah.
Yeah, totally, right? So the guy behind the Barkley marathons does hey, you have, I think it was 4 or 5 months to run 1000K, sells like 20,000 spots, and so we went, okay, well, people like to move along a map, and they want to be involved in something like that. Cool, maybe there's something there, and we just started taking pieces out of other events that we saw being successful, and then we thought, well, the one thing that maybe we could do differently is try to connect people through the team, right? Because what I could see is everyone that's in the part of the run crews that I like to run with here in Vancouver, we're all really bummed because you couldn't go and run with your friends. And doing a virtual race by yourself is certainly fun, but it's like that community is really what makes the experience. So that's kind of how we fell into Virtual Baton App.
Yeah, I could personally attest to that because two friends of ours joined us in our group, and they live in Scotland. They're actually from BC,
Yeah.
and yeah, we reconnected. We used the messaging part of the app, and we kind of gave virtual high fives to each other when we saw each other more than we spend more time talking and looking at each other's success than on Strava, which
Cool.
which really attests to the fact that there's a real communal aspect with it, and I think that's cool. And I think it's also a really cool thing that you guys actually offer this to companies if they want to use this as a team building exercise, right?
Yeah, we do, absolutely. And so we have our public facing races, which is under RunGuides Races. You can go on there and do a bunch of different team challenges. And then we started producing corporate events as well. And really, it's the same thing, except the course is totally customizable and it's private to your own organization, right? So, for example, we have one organization we're working with now where their workplace is doing a Barcelona to Valencia challenge where they have a month or two to see if their teams of 4 people can cover cumulative distance of 400 kilometers, running, walking, or counting their steps. And then they watch their teams move along the map, and they earn cool little digital badges and things along the way. So we felt like that could be something kind of fun because remote work isn't really going anywhere, right? I mean, remote work was I think this is inevitable, and the pandemic just sped it up. And now most offices or most companies that we're talking to are saying either we're going to go full remote or we're doing hybrid. But you still want employee engagement, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of a fun way to do that without the need for like yet another Zoom call.
I was about to say that. I was about to use the exact example, and Zoom tiredness is a real thing, and this avoids it. Thank God. That's cool. Okay, well, we talked about these virtual events. I'm gonna go back to the real thing. I don't think you've ever run the Death Valley 100, have you?
No, I have not. No.
Okay. But what is that? That's probably the craziest run in the world. But what's the craziest run you've ever participated in?
The craziest,
maybe most intense.
Yeah, I've done a few interesting ones. I did an event called the Multi Grind, which is you just lap this. There's a trail in Vancouver called the Grouse Grind. That's fairly well known, and it's about 2 or 2.5 kilometers, I think, in length, and you do about 900 meters of vertical gain. And so in this multi grind, they just say, hey, show up at 4 a.m. and we'll let you through this gate. And then you have to do as many laps as you can. There's a tram that goes down, right? So you go up and then you take the tram down. They give you a little bib that gives you front of the line pass on the tram.
Okay.
And then they say, okay, just go. As you do as many as you can, and as long as you're through the gate by 9 p.m., you can get that last lap in. And so I found out about that. It's a fundraising event for BC Children's Hospital.
Okay.
And I found out about it because I had a friend doing it one year, and some other friends said, hey, do you want to come out and pace Ian? He was going for the record at the time, which was like 18 of these loops, which is a lot. That's a lot of loops.
18. And it's pretty steep, right? I imagine.
It's full on. Yeah. I mean, you just go straight up. It's like walking up a bunch of stairs. Like as far as a hike goes, it's not scenic or anything, but it's a fun fitness challenge.
Okay.
And cool. So I decided I talked to Ian and he gave me a whole bunch of tips. I said, oh, that would be cool. So I went and did that. I thought that was kind of weird. And I did a bunch of laps. I had the strategy was because you want to minimize your time between loops, right? Like this gondola takes 7 minutes to go down plus faffing around a few minutes. And over the course of a day, that adds up to quite a bit of time. And so you're like, okay, how do you minimize your transition time? I said, Ian, what are your top tips? And he said, well, take a giant Rubbermaid container, put all of your food and prepackage it into little 250 calorie bags. Take that Rubbermaid, and they don't really have an official start line at the bottom, so just throw it in the forest, like hide it. And when you finish your lap, you can just run over to your Rubbermaid, huck your garbage in it out of your little vest, pick up your cookies or whatever, stuff them in, and then go up and then you can eat. So yeah, that's what I did.
That's cool. That's very cool. That sounds like a really wacky one.
Yeah.
That's nice. And any ones that stand out that you were like, this was like my personal best, like you'd cross the finish line and you just, or is it every run you ever participated in you felt ecstatic?
No, I think personally for me, just like I'm obviously not going for any podiums or anything, but I have my own personal goals. And I think one of the reasons that I love endurance sports so much is that anyone has the opportunity to go to a start line and go, okay, today I'm going to try to achieve something that is at the limit of what I think possible for myself, right? I don't here's a goal that I think is achievable. I don't know if I can do this, but I don't know that I can't do this. Right. And that is what I that's what I love about endurance sports. I think that's just super, super fantastic. And so for myself, yeah, there are definitely races where I kind of you set that goal and you go for it. So I think my little lifetime personal best, like ultimate glory, was a couple of years ago. I went for that sub 3 hour marathon and got that in Vancouver. and that was pretty awesome. I tried for it a couple times before and failed. And that was my little feather in my cap. That, and I ran a sub 7-minute beer mile, which I feel like is that's like the sub 3 of the beer mile world. So very happy about that one too.
I've trained for runs, but I've never trained for a beer mile. What's the? Do you just tank a lot of beers? Like did you try to raise your alcohol level? Is there even a training process to achieve a good ranking or a good performance?
There's a whole training protocol. I know it sounds goofy, but there truly is.
Truly is. Okay.
And this is from. So one of my friends, Andrew Hall, amazing beer miler, he went and ran in the World Championships in Austin a few years ago.
Okay.
And these are like I guess legit people. So I think he ran a 5:35 thereabouts beer mile. So that's 4 beers, 1 mile.
In 5:35.
5:35, wow. Right? So like that's slight. Like my mile on my best day is maybe like 5:20 and change or something. And I'm giving myself a couple extra seconds to be generous. So what you do is first, you just got to get really fast at doing a mile. But secondly, there's a whole thing. You just practice chugging, and you get an empty beer bottle, and you leave it by the sink. And every now and then, a few times a day, you fill that beer bottle up, and you slam it back as fast as you can. You train yourself to get good, and then you try doing it when you're out of breath, and that is how you get faster at beer mile.
Cool. Very interesting. Very informative.
I mean, I can tell there's a whole. We could fill the 45 minutes here with beer mile training tips.
Today, you're for lack of a better word, you're actually an entrepreneur. And with Brendan, you built your own platform, and you have an app, you have a brand, you have a whole media conglomerate. Did the young version of yourself ever think that you were going to end up doing this?
I like that you refer to it as a media conglomerate.
It is. It's got several.
Yeah, it does. It's true. RunGuides Media. It sounds a bit evil, doesn't it? A media conglomerate.
I mean, if you have run in media, I can't hurt a fly. I'm sure there's no big political stances ever taken.
Did I think? What's the question again? Did I think that we would ever do this?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like. I feel like with this particular business, we've just kind of always approached it as, okay, here's something we're interested in. Here's something at the same time that we think can actually, make us money and provide a livelihood. Let's try to do that. And then if it works, we ask ourselves, okay, if we continue doing this, will it increase? Will we get more traffic? Will we make more money? If yes, then let's continue doing that. And then at the same time, let's poke at other little ideas and same thing, like try them out. If there's some traction there, okay, keep going. So yeah, maybe I did. Maybe previous Cory thought he was going to, but I can certainly tell you now that I now for sure I feel like I'll always have some little project on the go. Absolutely.
Nice. And I do appreciate some of your little projects, and this comes into my next question. I don't think there's anybody who comes out with like funnier April Fool's jokes than you. And I want to touch base on a couple of them. Stravoid was one of my favorite ones. Can you tell us a bit about Stravoid, just quickly?
Yeah. Again, it's such a nice thing to say. I think I can find so many. I feel like there are a lot of people that have better April Fool's jokes than me.
But I haven't found them yet. So you're pretty up there. You're pretty up there.
Yeah, I like Stravoid, and I wish it was a real app. Stravoid is the #1 app for avoiding runners. You can find it at stravoid.com, and it's something we put out a couple April Fools ago. This year we had a few messages back from our email list that were kind of like, is this real? And this year we did listentomyrun.com, which is a phone line you can call into. It's like, are your friends bored of listening to your race stories again and again? listen to my run. Like, we're happy to chat. We'll go over your Strava data. You can tell us what you ate race morning. These, by the way, these have absolutely, like, they're like counterproductive. Like, I spend half a week or a week coming up with this idea, and then Brendan, my business partner, graciously says, yeah, okay, when we do our morning call to talk about our priorities for the day and the week, he's like, okay, fine, you can make the listen to my run site. You will make it a priority today. Thank you, Brendan.
So not as enthused. Who buys the domain? Is it you or Brendan? You buy.
Then I expense it.
That's really cool. Well, I know I appreciate them. So it's been a good source of humor, especially the one that you had during the pandemic. It really lifted my spirits. So that was cool.
I'm glad there's one person out there that likes the RunGuides Instagram account and appreciates the comics.
I appreciate the comments, but I don't get them from the Instagram account. But not a problem. Have you guys seen a little bit more to serious talk? But have you guys seen any positive trends either on your website or talking to other people in the industry? Because it seems like things are opening up at least in the States right now. And if you have any data, that would be cool.
Absolutely. So I mean, again, we're starting to see the beginnings of a recovery, which is great. When people come to runguides.com, they're searching for runs in a specific area, right? And and they're typically searching for races about 3 to 6 months out. It's a general rule of thumb when we look at the data on our site. So what we see, we're starting to see traffic pop back up, especially in the US, especially in certain regions down there. And it's starting in some of the regions is starting to approach our 2019 levels, which is very promising.
Nice.
What that tells me is, at least psychologically, people are thinking, okay, I am going to do a run at some point in the future, right? Now, whether they're thinking 3 months to 6 months from now, we don't really know for sure. That's something that we can pour into our data and actually see, like, what month are they looking at the moment. So we're definitely starting to see it, and it is really, I think it's an interesting study of the psychology of people, really, because you'll see some regions we're still down pretty significantly, right? And those are typically regions that are still a lot more affected. You're still seeing maybe talk of lockdowns or a lot of restrictions. And then you have other regions where we're within a few percentage points of 2019. And those are the regions typically that are a little bit more open, so, or like have opened up, right, so to speak. And so you think, well, people's psychology is now shifted to, okay, I'm going to run again. It's definitely recovering, and more so in the States than Canada right now. But we are seeing gains in Canada too. And I can't tell the future, but I think it'll be really interesting to see what happens in a few more months here.
Nice. Well, thanks for sharing. That's actually great news. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but I do want to go back on it. There was an article, I think it came out in 2017 in the New York Times, and it was entitled "The Running Bubble Has Popped." And they were talking about just road race particularly, and they had definitely separated trail running that they considered separate, which is still booming. And they had basically had the amount of finishers in the States, and they went from 19 million in 2013 to 17 million in 2016. And then they had a couple of people that were saying, I think we just grew too quick, too fast. What's your take on the health of the industry? Let's say we return exactly to what it was, pre-pandemic. Did it grow too fast? And do you think there's still room to grow, to be innovative? And how does that go with the obstacle races and those other type of runs as well?
Yeah. I think interesting. I would say as far as growing too fast, one trend that I did see for sure, and this would be a little bit, I don't want to pick on the obstacle course races and the sort of color runs and things too much, but one of the things that we definitely saw were kind of the emergence of some promotion companies that were creating events that were kind of going to be one-off. Just we're going to just run this, and then we're not going to invest a ton into the runner experience, and then it's gone, right? And so there would be specific events that would kind of pop up. You see a lot of negative or mediocre reviews on those, and then that event wouldn't exist anymore. Versus some of the more established runs that are really putting a lot of energy and effort into not only the runner experience, but how they're tying in with the community. Let's say, for example, the amount of money that they're fundraising for various community initiatives and like putting it back in there.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think like you brought a good example, and the one I can think about is the New York Roadrunners, where that community aspect's super important, and so important that if you like volunteer, I think for a set number of runs that are like more local ones, then you actually automatically get a spot in the actual New York Marathon, which is really tough to get.
Nice.
Unless you're timing yourself at really ridiculous times, or you're paying this like ridiculous travel entity that has the whole package that it bid for, or you win the lottery, which is also an even more difficult thing. But my point of all this is, do you think that there might be a shift towards more of these community aspects, and then those one-off events that really never was put any effort, those will actually die off, and if anything, it'll benefit the runner because it'll be more of an inclusive run or a more communal experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think in event production in general, if you focus on creating a quality product and have a vision of like, we're going to throw this for a number of years, I think you stand a great chance of success. And I think there is that opportunity in the running industry for sure. So I think going forward, there's a ton of opportunity. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see how things grow. I think the trail's growing like crazy right now, which is pretty interesting. The rule of thumb with that seems to just be make it really, really difficult, and then more people want to do it. So if you're like, oh yeah, just come out and do this chill, really achievable distance, and there's not much elevation, your sales go okay. And then when you go, okay, here's the deal. It's it's 50K straight up, and we have people that throw oranges at you. We don't let you sleep 3 days before. Then people are like, let's do it.
Yeah, it's a whole different experience for sure, and it's weird that even I'm still discovering new segments within that segment. So I think one's called Skyrunning or Sky. I forget the actual term, but it has to be at a certain set of altitude for the entire race.
Oh yeah, okay. I've heard the term, and I don't want to speculate on what exactly it is, but that sounds right to me.
Yeah, and so this is even pushing your body like further. Like if you live in Amsterdam, like how do you train for this? Like that guy lives in Peru. He's miles ahead of you for this race, and it's definitely pushing your body to another level. I do appreciate the way they're innovating. I do think that this dip may bring a new boom that's like a kind of like a third wave of coffee, but like more of a third wave of running.
Yeah, I mean, I'm biased because I'm in the industry, but I actually do. I think there's going to be a massive recovery. I mean, you have like, look at the activities that people were doing. A ton of people were picking up running shoes and running, walking, or they were buying bikes. And I think there's a tremendous appetite for running races, once they return. And I think 2022 is going to be pretty interesting for the industry.
Cool. I have a quick couple rapid questions before we wrap it up. But first off, what's your favorite pair of running shoes for road running?
What I'm currently running in right now are a pair of Hoka's, and I cannot remember the model. I also have been running in Saucony Kinvaras as well. I swap between the two.
Okay. And are they? Do you find they're better when they're very, very worn, or are they better when they're brand new?
No, you don't want them to be worn. No, man, they're nice when they're new. And I try to I try to swap, or I try to get new pairs either. Well, basically when they feel dead, like if they're worn and they're feeling dead, get that shoe out of there. Yeah.
Okay. And, you have several thousand runs on your platform that are listed.
Yeah.
We talked about a couple of them, but any of them that you'd recommend to be put on a future bucket list if people were doing like runs per state or something that you've met the organizer, you've heard good things about, or even that you experienced yourself?
Yeah. I mean, oh man, that's so hard to pick specific runs. You know what, I'm going to tell you about one of the runs I just found I thought was super cool, and I want to do it one day. I don't even know if it's still happening, but I can remember this. I think it was called Fork in the Road, and it's like a trail race in Ottawa, and near Ottawa. And what they do is they have a course where there are multiple forks in the road, and the entire but you're not allowed GPS. You don't know the course beforehand, and so you can basically, it's like choose your own adventure. You show up, you go left, you go right. You end up either running, I think, about 8K on a relatively easy course, or if you choose the wrong forks, you'll do about 15K with an extra like 700 meters of elevation. And I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah.
That's pretty cool, because even if you're like you run regularly enough, 15K is still doable. It's just that it's very frustrating that your friend may have done the 8K and you got stuck doing 15K. Yeah. But I guess it could be worse. You could be stuck in the Barksley marathons with thorns all around your legs.
Yeah. One other one. I would really like to do that Rock and Roll Vegas marathon. That one, they shut the whole strip down and everything. Yeah, that's one that personally I think would be pretty fun.
Yeah.
But man, there's so many good runs.
Nice. I can feel the passion, and I know it's true, and it rings true with you. And thank you so much for coming on the pod. My last question: if people want to get in touch with you, talk about partnerships, or even get the run featured on your website, what's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, absolutely. You can, if you're looking to get anything featured on RunGuides, you can go to runguides.com, the contact form, or hit me up directly, Cory@runguides.com, Cory@runguides.com. And yeah, I'd be happy to chat. Anything RunGuides related or anything to do with Virtual Baton App and the virtual team fitness challenges there.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for dropping by, Cory. I'm wishing you a happy summer, and hopefully we'll come across on one of those events maybe this fall. Might be sooner rather than later.
Fingers crossed. Let's go, right? Yeah. No, it was great to have. Thanks for having me. That was a lot of fun.
All right. Take care, Cory.